Hi everybody, welcome to Mike's Classic Pinball. This is hopefully, I think, the last video for Skylab. Now, I've been through a lot getting this thing running. It is now running properly, but I was going through and doing kind of a list of what I have left to do. So I'm going to do this in segments throughout this week. We're going to start with stripping the playfield and giving it a clean. Then we're going to re-glue inserts that have been popping out. Do any minor touch-ups to the playfield. We'll take a look at that as we come to it. Then we're going to do the lights, rubbers, plastics, give it a wax, give the cabinet a clean, give the buttons a clean. There's a weird switch attached to the door that's not original to this game, and it doesn't go anywhere, so I'm taking that out. There's a couple of dents in the door and it needs to be cleaned up, so we're going to do that. I'm going to replace the bottom switch, the power switch, because that one that's on there is a little wonky. I'm going to redo the shooter rod and the springs and everything, and then we're going to set it to free play. And I need to finish readjusting the playfield switches to get those to a little bit closer because they're hitting a little bit far. And so I'm going to bring those in just a hair closer so that they're working properly. And then that's kind of what you'll see throughout the week, because I'd really like to see this game done and back to its home this week. But the other thing I am going to do with this once we're all done is IPDB.org is actually looking for some more high-res photos of this, specifically the panel inside the cabinet and in the back box. They would like some more photos. So I've got a nice one here, what's going to be a nice one in the next few days, may as well. And help IPDB out. So that's kind of what we've got left. Excuse me. So first thing I'm going to do, I've got my table all set, I've got my blanket laid out, and we're going to strip down the playfield and get ready to clean everything. So let's get going with that. Okay, so here's a look at where we're at. You can see things are a little bit dirty. Obviously, loose inserts. It's dirty. It needs to be stripped down and cleaned so that we can give this a really good wax. But wanted to kind of show you this right now so that you can see what it's like when we're done. So let's get started. Okay, so I've got everything stripped down, or at least sufficiently stripped down enough to where I need to clean and touch up and do insert repair and stuff. So that's going to do it for tonight's work. We will resume tomorrow and start the actual cleaning process. So have a good night, guys, and this video will continue in just a few seconds for you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday. So yesterday we stripped everything down, as you saw a few seconds ago. Today we're going to clean the playfield. I have a couple hours to go before I have to go to work this morning, so I figured I'd work on this a little bit. Now, obviously, as you guys know, cleaning playfields, there is a huge Bible of thoughts about the best way to do this. Now, I'll show you my favorite method. I've used a bunch of other methods. You've got everything from Millwax and you can use Novus tube, people using alcohol and melamine foam, which works really good. But again, we've got some paint wear here, so I want to be super careful with anything like that, because if you get a little heavy-handed with the melamine foam, then the problem is that you're going to start losing paint. I'll show you my preferred method, but one of the things I like to do first is you got a lot of like super dirty, dusty spots. You don't want to immediately start putting cleaner right on the dust. You want to dust the game down first, either with air, which is what I prefer, or with a rag or something like that. I don't like using a rag for that quite as much, because if you're just dusting, you could lose more paint. But what I like to do first is get my stencil brush, the same one that I used for doing cleaning on the relay board, and I'll just go through trouble spots, the spots that are a little hard to get to, especially under like plastics or something, and I'll go through and just kind of rub around on it and loosen dirt up. That way, in a few minutes, when I go through it with air, it'll take a lot of that with it. So I'm going to do that. But then I'll show you the next step and my preferred method. And I learned this from Rob Burke of the Pinball Expo. He taught me all about this, and this is waterless hand cleaner. This is hand cleaner that has no water in it. This is oil-based hand cleaner. This particular one has pretty much no abrasives in it. It's just detergents and oils. This does beautiful job. Now, Gojo is kind of one of the preferred brands. There's a lot of other brands that you can use, but this does a really good job. But it doesn't have water in it that's going to soak in and eat away everything, so it's not going to raise grain or anything like that. It does have a tiny amount of water in it, depending on what version or what brand you use. But it also has oils in it that will go through and moisturize the wood without raising grain. So this works really, really well. It's one of my preferred methods. Just waterless hand cleaner, Gojo. Purple Power has a tiny bit more water in it, so I prefer not use that. But as you can see, it takes dirt off really nicely. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to do this. I'm going to dust it down and give it a clean, and we'll be back in a little bit. It's probably taking about an hour to get it clean properly, and then I'll be back with you and show you the result. One other quick thing I was going to tell you: please don't use water on your playfield, and don't use stuff like this on your playfield. This is great for cleaning everything else. Please don't use this on your playfield. You're going to ruin it. Especially, these especially, unless you're in extreme dire circumstances and you're over Mylar or something like that. But as a rule, don't use these. You'll ruin your playfield because water will get in and just do all manner of havoc to the wood. Wood and water don't get on; they never have. And it'll go in and it'll raise grain in the wood, and then you're going to end up with cracks like this. You're just going to end up with problems. So avoid water at all costs on your playfield. Use something else, either alcohol, Novus, waterless hand cleaner, something like, if you're going to use alcohol, excuse me. If you're going to use alcohol, use like a 90% or something like that. Something with very, very, very little water, as little water as possible. So just a quick tip. Okay, so it's been about an hour. I've gone through and I've cleaned everything, make sure everything looks nice. I did bust out the melamine just in a couple of little spots where it was a little tough. But by and large, I think it looks a lot better than it did. So the next step I'm going to do right now, I'm actually going to work in a few minutes here, but what I'm going to do before I go is I'm going to come in from underneath and I'm going to re-glue inserts. Never glue your insert from the top, because then you got super glue or whatever other glue you're using all over your playfield. So not the best idea there, but I just use a little bit of super glue from underneath and that will secure them. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then probably work on the game some more tonight when I get home. So I will see you guys then. Well, I have this up. There's one other thing I wanted to show you real quick. I took these units all the way off. This is from the pot bumpers. I took the units all the way off. Now, some of my, and I just blue tape them up to a harness for the time being to hold them in place. Some of my friends are like, why the hell would you do that? Like, well, I needed to get the entirety of the pot bumpers off because I wanted to replace the skirt. And to do that, you have to desolder and remove the come on, think, the light socket. You have to desolder and remove the light socket. Now normally it's like, well, just snip them and get a new one. It's easier to do that way. And I agree with you 100%, but it just seems like right now, light sockets are fucking drug money, if you can find them at all. So I like to reuse them if I can, which means I need to desolder them and then resolder them. And that's a lot easier to do when this is out of the way. That's why. Just a quick tip. Because what I'm going to do is, this is what the skirts looked like that were on the game. Pretty messed up. I knew I wanted to replace them, and I had some spares that were a little rough. More than a little rough. These I had taken actually from Spanish Eyes, I believe. I pulled these from and replaced them. This one was cracked, but the others were not. So I had some spares. And as an example, I just took this skirt and left it overnight in some mean green, and now they look like this. So, and they're the correct ones with no needles or anything on it. So yeah, so just a little mean green overnight, and worked like a charm. So that's the reason I did that, is so that I could get these in there easier and make that look better. Every insert was loose. I had to reglue every insert. Oh well, you do what you must. But yeah, so what I do is I pop them out. I have a little block of wood. I'd pop them out, put the glue underneath, and then use the block of wood to sink it so it's flush with the play field, and then leave it there for a second until the glue sets, and then you're solid. A couple of my inserts are a little warped, so I've only tacked parted them in just so that they'll hold, and I'm probably going to order new ones for those. But yeah, so that part's done. Now I'm officially going to go get ready for work. So we'll see you guys back at the table tonight. Okay, so nice long day at work today, but had a chance to let the inserts dry. Those are all glued in, and those are nice and secure now. So now I'm just kind of pushing the bulbs back up to where they need to be. I just bent those out of the way slightly so that I could have better access to them, but yeah, that'll work. Okay, so now that the play field is all secured, the next thing I wanted to do on the play field is do touch-ups. They're very, very minor, but I don't think I'm going to get to that tonight. I may work on that tomorrow and give it a chance to dry throughout tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. But for now, I think the best thing I've got to do is there's a couple of mechanical things that I want to finish up on this. Let me kind of give you a rundown of what I want to do. Okay, so one of the things here is there's this weird switch mechanism that's been put in here that it's almost like a lock switch, or it's almost like the door switch on a newer game. But here's the thing. This is the line for it. It doesn't go anywhere, and this doesn't exactly look original. So I'm going to just take that out of there completely. I'm going to replace the switch, because the switch that's on there is very dodgy. And I'll show you kind of, that's the switch that was on there. It's super dodgy, but I've got one that I can put on there. I want to get a little bit of door work done, because you can see the door, it's kind of off a little bit. It doesn't sit properly. It's a little bent over here. But I'm going to give that a nice clean and polish and get all of that done. And then I'm going to pull these off, and I'm going to stick those in a mean green bath for the night, because you see the black ring around it. Super nasty. I mean, that's basically 40 plus years of finger fluff and dirt and God knows what else on there. I mean, who wants to sit and finger that for a game? So it's super easy to do. All you do on this basically is to take these out is you remove the top screw on the switch, loosen the second one, and then you can just swing it out of the way, remove the E-clip, and then you can pull those out. So that's kind of what I'm going to do tonight, because I don't have a lot of time tonight. But I wanted to get a few things done, and then just some more general cleaning down in here and make everything look all right. So that's kind of the goal for tonight. I'll check in with you guys in a bit. Okay, so I've replaced the bottom switch. I've taken this silly thing off the door. Now, upon further inspection, I'm guessing this, I don't think it's original. I think this is probably put in by an arcade, maybe at some point, or by professional, because it's from Alarm Device Manufacturing. So I'm guessing this is some kind of alarm to tell whether or not the door had been broken into. Kind of an interesting thing. I may keep a hold of that, but because I'm a fucking pack rat. But no, so couple of things. That's all done. I have pulled the buttons, and as you can see, so those are going into a mean green bath in a minute. Those will sit overnight. Get those cleaned up. Now, playfield. Couple of things we're going to do tonight and tomorrow. Now, let me adjust things a little bit here. And you can see my horrible, ugly ass working space. So a couple of things here. Now, there's not really much in the way of, wear. There's a couple of like tiny little cracks and stuff in the paint, and there's a couple of little spots. This was at one point, as you can see, a really vibrant purple, but it's long faded since then. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. But if these cracks, what I'm going to try is I'm going to try and put just a close match and then just rub it off. Because like when you're doing pinprick holes like this, what you can do is you can just get a close approximation, put it on there and rub it off. And then the paint will just fill in the hole. Probably going to do that and that right there. Now, as you can see, I have two different color flippers. I did find an extra white one in my stock, so I'm going to replace that. But then we're going to go through, do some touch up. The main thing I want to do is around the inserts and make those look better. Yeah, so that's the plan. Like I said, I'm probably not going to get to all of that tonight. I'm going to get to probably none of that tonight. I finished up most of what I'm going to do, but we'll probably start working on that bit tomorrow, and then we'll give everything a really good clean and wax. So yeah, I'll check in with you guys again in a bit. Okay, so touch-ups are basically done. Did around the inserts. That's still drying, so it's going to take a minute, but I'm going to touch them up probably a little bit more tomorrow, or later tonight, but I think basically done. Everything seems to look good, or at least good enough for this. I think it's come together really nice. Tomorrow, it still looks really rough, but tomorrow we're going to give everything a really good waxing. Like you can see in the middle there, it's not a color difference, it's actually a texture difference. And so when we do a wax on this, it's going to really make it pop and look good. And I'll show you what I'm going to do on this. I'm going to let everything dry tonight, but I'm going to show you what the plan is for tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. Wednesday morning. So we're going to go ahead and give this a wax now that everything's had a chance to dry. And then I'm not going to be getting a chance to work on this at all tonight because it's D&D day. After work tonight, play D&D, and that takes forever. So we'll be back at this tomorrow, but let's go ahead and give this thing a wax down, then we'll let it dry, and then we buff. Okay, waxing all done. We're going to let that sit for a little bit and dry. You kind of want to let it sit until it gets all pasty and dry and kind of tack, and then you're going to take some really nice microfiber and give it a good buff, and we'll probably give it 2 treatments at least, and then we'll go from there. So rock and roll. The other thing to remember too, when you're doing waxing and stuff like that, be wary, or not wary, but at least mindful of when you're around rollovers and buttons. And just be aware that if you do it like this, you're going to have to clean and wash around these afterwards and maybe take them out and buff them a little bit, because otherwise they'll get sticky or they'll end up having gunk on them and it'll look like garbage. But just so you know, just be careful around stuff like rollovers and buttons and stuff like that, and lane wires. Just make sure that you don't wreck them. So be careful with that. All right, good morning, everybody. So here's where we are at. It is Thursday morning. You'll notice that I sound a little different. I, about mid-yesterday, started feeling like absolute hell. Like it came on so quick, so fast. Fever, sore throat, stuffy nose, all of that shit, that I actually got nervous, and I went and I got tested, which I have done several times before, especially since I work with kids. But test was negative. I just have a nasty ass cold, so that's why I sound like I smoke 20 packs a day today. That's all right. I'm kind of taking it chill today, working on this. I'll go into work later today. Just kind of relaxing a little bit. So, since the last clip, here's what has happened. Obviously, I've started reassembly. I buffed everything down, and I'm going to give everything one more good buff when we're done. But I'm starting reassembly. I got the pop bumpers back on. New skirts. They look really nice. I mean greened the shit out of the post, but you know, it didn't do it really. And I'm not ordering new ones for this. I mean, they're barely seeable at all anyway, so they're fine. But, so yeah, so I've started to put everything back together, put the caps back on these, and I'm going to start putting posts back in, putting everything back in, and we're really close to done. And I'm really happy with how things are looking, with how things are turning out. Like I said, I'm going to give it one more small wax and buff in a little bit here, but the other thing you're going to notice is that I have converted at least a majority, well, pretty much all of the playfield GI, I have changed to LED. Now, there are going to be some of my friends are going to be, Mike, what the fuck are you doing putting LEDs on any, and normally I agree with you. But a couple of reasons. Number one, I've got a ton of them. You know, I ordered a bulk and I never used them because I realized I don't really do that much in the way of solid state machines. So I've got tons of LEDs sitting around. So I've been slowly using them up on some projects here and there. And I figured for this theme, for this game, it actually will probably look pretty good. Now, it could be I reassemble this and it looks like shit. In which case I will go back and redo it. But I don't think it will. I think that these will look all right. So I'm going to go ahead and finish reassembly. I'm going to put on some Yes music and finish putting everything back together. We are nearing done. So let's go. Okay guys, so I wanted to show you why I love this stuff. You see, quite nasty. I've done the buttons on the side. They're a lot better now. But you see, I'm going to do this with the whole cabinet. But you can see it's kind of yucky. Just let that sit for just a second. And look at the difference there. Just with a couple seconds, that looks so much better. Now with the doors, kind of the same dealio. Give it a spritz and it's Scotch-Brite. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to do several layers of that and clean that up. But I wanted to show you that, yeah, Mean Green does a good job cleaning up, and it'll serve you well. You can get this stuff at Family Dollar, Walmart, whatever. It's cheap as chips. I wouldn't drink it, but pretty safe for your games. Not on the playfield. Promise me, don't use it on a playfield. Even just on my crappy little foam crammer, you can see it's a world of difference, can't you? So I'm going to go through and finish polishing this up, and then we're going to get to the rest of the game. Okay, one thing we're doing today too, for Josh on this is, rather than him having to credit it up every game, we're going to set it on free play. There's a lot of question about how to do that. In Williams EM games, it's really super simple. This is the credit unit. This top switch, see when you're out of credits, that goes down and deactivates that switch. It's this top switch, at least on this game, and you're going to just basically bend it closed. I'm not going to do it with my fingers. I'll get a thing to do that, but it's just this top switch. You can either jumper it closed, solder it closed, or just bend that closed. That takes care of it. Not bad at all. Yeah. Okay, guys, so we're done. There's probably one or two last little bugs. I'm going to do some test plays, but we are done. I'm going to go through and just check some under playfield bulbs that I think are a little sus. The other thing I'm going to do tonight and tomorrow is I'm going to do new laminated scorecards because I think that'll look better. And then just go through, give everything one more polish. The one thing too is this glass actually has a scratch on it. But I put it up there kind of out of the way, not really noticeable from there, but that could probably use a replacement soon. But like I said, I'm just going to go through, give everything one more polish, give it some test plays, make sure there's no bugs, kind of bulletproof anything that comes up. But I think we are done. The game is playing, the game is working, and I'm really kind of happy with how the LEDs look. I think they turned out nice. I think that they fit this particular game very well. Plus, the other reason I kind of wanted to do them is not just because I have a ton of them, but because these plastics are actually really nice and they're impossible to get. So LEDs aren't going to burn up those plastics as much as a 47 or even a 44 bulb would. So that's one of the other reasons I did it. But so thank you for joining me on this. I'm super happy that this is up and going. It's going to go back to Josh this weekend. So Josh, thank you for letting me spend some time with this table and share it with all of you guys. So do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. I hope you got a little bit out of all of this, and let's play some pinball. Thanks for joining me, everybody.